grab a bottle of water or anything before we get going?
I think so, yeah, there's water. Yeah, water. Did you want one more?
Where do you have me sitting?
You're alive.
You can sit with your mom.
Oh, right, okay.
Look at this wonderful small bird. This is so lovely.
If we could
What's
just
up? Oh, stand up.
No, you're live.
Oh, good, we're live. Hi, everybody.
Oh.
We are still just transitioning, so we're closing the door, we're bringing the board members up, and we will get started fairly quickly here.
We're waiting for Cheryl and Dennis, I guess. We don't need to wear this stuff here?
You're in my six, my safe six.
Oh. So up here, we don't need to wear masks? Staying up here, we do.
I don't think we're going to answer.
Okay, yeah. Right. Okay, well, I want to welcome everybody. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Good, thank you. So we don't have to hand around a dirty mic. So for those who don't know me, I'm Louise Heck, and I am chair for Whispers of Hope. And I have with us Dennis and Cheryl Smith, who joined our board later in the year, in the season. And I have Kim Scholga, who is our coordinator.
McClellan.
Melissa Scholga. I'm clearly qualified to do this job.
So Les is suggesting the mic so that the people who are watching live can hear properly.
Just push the button on the bottom once.
And if it shows green,
All right. Am I on the mic? No.
Is it green?
Maybe there's not on the bottom? Maybe there's no battery.
no,
No,
we
it goes
tested
like
it all
that.
before.
Oh, there it is.
There we
All right, now you can really hear me.
go. Perfect.
All right. So I think I was introducing Kim McClellan, who is our secretary slash treasurer, and Melissa Scholga, who is our coordinator. Missing from our board this evening is Val Rilcock, who is assisting somebody for a medical thing over in Trail this evening, so she is not with us this evening. So I guess just a little tiny bit of housekeeping. Just to the left of the exit sign here, you'll find a washroom if you need it. There is water in the entry, however, I think people mostly took care of that stuff when they came in, so. All right. Did everybody pick up a package? We have an agenda here. So first off, I would like to have the agenda approved. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, Christy, and a seconder, Lorraine. Okay, thank you. All right, and then if Kim or Melissa would read the minutes from 2018.
Oh, right. Of course I didn't grab a copy.
Melissa, this is being streamed, you know.
I know. That's getting so okay. So the minutes for our last AGM was May 15th, 2019. We called to order at 7:15 at the Legion Hall. We had board introductions, greetings and announcements. Approval of the agenda was moved by Christy and seconded by Diana Darling. We had a guest speaker, Deb McIntosh, with the Community Harvest Food Bank, Drop-In Center, and Emergency Shelter Program in Castlegar. Minutes from the previous AGM, held May 3rd, 2018, were moved by Ingrid Matheson and seconded by Brandon, and it doesn't have his last name here. I think it's Nicholson. Reports. We had a chair's report by Louise. It was moved by Henny and seconded by Brandon. Again, apologize for the last names there. I don't know if they're needed anyway. Coordinator's report was done and moved by Deb McIntosh, seconded by Ingrid Matheson. We had a financial report read by Christy Wheaton. It was moved by Dave Len and seconded by Lorraine Dick. We then moved on to nominations and elections of new directors. 7 positions needed to be filled. 12 names were put forward and 7 were elected. We had several with a 2-year term, so those would have been elected that night, would have been Kim McClellan, Joe White, Tammy Battersby, Pam Kennedy, Dwayne Foster, Val Rolkoff, and Terry Taggart. 1-year terms, we had Louise Heck and Claudette Parison. And I believe after that, we adjourned. So that was the previous minutes.
All right, Tammy, would you like to motion then that,
Yeah, I move to accept the minutes as presented.
okay, do I have a seconder? Christie? Thank you. All right, you've done that. I'm going to give just a little quick talk here, and then we're going to have our speaker come up. So 2019 was a turbulent year for Whispers. However, we pushed forward, working toward a new horizon of hope and belonging for all. We could not do this alone. We would like to gratefully acknowledge the contributions of the Gospel Chapel for the use of their kitchen, and the Holy Trinity Anglican Church for the use of their kitchen and hall to serve meals, and to the food bank for their hand in supplying us with some of the contents of our daily lunches while waiting for our kitchen to open. And to our community members who stood by us and continue to donate and contribute in so many ways, thank you. As for the turbulence, several turnovers of board members, a rocky landing with the warming center continuing beyond our funding, and finally closing on a rainy day in August. Despite the challenges we faced, we know that others encountered so many more in their daily search for shelter, hope, and acceptance. We are proud of what we do and grateful for the opportunity to be a part of a larger community of caring groups and individuals. Thank you.
I'll clap for that.
Very nicely said.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce Tanya, and I'm going to let her say her own last name when she comes up. She's going to speak to us just a bit this evening. You certainly can.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanya Robitaille. I'm coming to talk to you today about the benefit Whispers has had in this community and continues to have. This summer I worked for Coins. I was the Aboriginal Health Coordinator, and now I work in mental health virtual care clinic with Providence Health. So I work a lot of outreach with our marginalized people and unhoused people in this community. In the summer, Coins collaborated with Boundary Family Services, and we did a count of the unhoused people in the community, and we had a solid count of 32 people. We were surprised to learn that despite a lot of opinion in this town, many of them are long-term residents of the town. And out of the 32 people, 11 self-identified as being First Nations or Métis, and out of those 32 people, we had 10 children under the age of 18. So for these people in particular, Whispers is an indispensable service to them because they're people that don't necessarily benefit from the food bank because they don't have access to refrigeration, they don't have access to cooking facilities. So to have these lunches delivered to them every day is just something they really look forward to, and very touching when we pull up in the outreach van for children to come running because they're hungry. You know, it's not something that we should be seeing in Canada, as far as I'm concerned. And that being said, there's more people that weren't counted because we were unable to count people that are couch surfing, people that are living on the periphery in campers and cars. So we know that there's many, many more people that are depending on Whispers every day to eat. We have entire families with babies, and we still have a gap on weekends because Whispers does a wonderful service during the week, but there's still people hungry on weekends. So I'm just so thankful that Whispers exist because I don't know what these people would do and how they would eat. So it's such a beautiful thing that you guys are doing here and supporting the community.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tanya. All right. We are really quicker than I thought we were moving. So I'm going to speak a little bit to the Warming Center. That was our project in 2019 that I'm sure everybody heard, plenty about it. So in late 2018, Whispers of Hope took on the administration of the Warming Center for the 2019 winter. Initially, we agreed to provide a warm space similar to a coffee shop environment to complement a motel shelter model, which was to be operated by another organization in town. The motel project did not go forward, and it was winter with no shelter, so it began. Whispers agreed to become the administrative body and to hold a contract with BC Housing. There was a group of community volunteers to oversee the daily operations. The idea was that the group would form a nonprofit eventually and look at affordable housing in the boundary. When that did not happen, Whispers took a more direct role. We were grateful for the space provided by the Weeds Group for us to operate the Warming Center from January through July, and to BC Housing for the funding. It was not without challenges. Some neighbors were concerned and some behaviors inappropriate. However, over the course of the winter, the center ran with a minimum of 2 staff, 24 hours daily. Wages paid to those staff were spent almost entirely in our community. And during that time, we were able to provide staff with first aid, including mental health first aid, conflict resolution, naloxone training, harm reduction, trauma-informed practice, and supportive goal setting for clients. We were able to partner with interior health, mental health, and substance use and use and abuse, and anchors to provide on-site services to our guests. Staff were able to assist several guests in obtaining their ID and social insurance numbers, and a few guests found part-time employment. The benefits to our community were evident in our downtown core, parks and riverbanks. Our organization had witnessed many of our guests struggle to survive over recent years, and nearing the end of our tenancy, began to witness the emergence of their creativity in art, music, gardening, and mechanical projects. Some took the big step to pursue medical support to address their health issues, and we saw this as an indication of stability in their lives. Since that time, Whispers has become a part of a community service agencies group comprising of RCMP, Mental Health, Boundary Family Services, the City of Grand Forks, and other like agencies, which was established to explore some solutions to our staggering homelessness and other social issues here in Grand Forks. So that is kind of just an overview of the Warming Center. And thank you. Okay.
I don't mind rolling into my report.
Okay, we'll do that while we're waiting for our auditor to come on.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Now, Les, if you're willing to change slides for me.
Sure, just stand in one position while I do this.
Oh, okay.
Just give me a second here to set up.
No problem. And as long as folks can see the slides, they don't need to see me. It's okay. And pardon my notes. I normally do try to do more off the cuff or whatever I can, but like I said, 2019 feels a world away, and so much happened. So I'm going to try and give some highlights of what we went through, and yeah, try and sum it up as best as possible. We probably won't have enough time for a Q&A after I'm done and before the auditor, so keep any questions you have in mind or whatever, and we can try and make sure that they all get addressed at the end. We'll try and let the auditor answer her questions and the financial stuff first, and then you can hit me with all you've got. So we'll do the second slide. I like to see Whispers as a conduit or as a funnel. It's an opportunity for community donations, for volunteer efforts, and for service providers to reach those in need and vice versa. Some of our main stakeholders for 2019 would have included Anchors, BC Housing, Blessings Boutique, the Boundary Food Bank, Boundary Resource Centre, or otherwise known as the Women's Resource Centre, the Holy Trinity Anglican, Habitat for Humanity Restore, Mental Health and Substance Use, Phoenix Foundation, several of the church groups, and of course local farmers, just to name a few. Let's go to the next slide, please. In our timeline, we started off in January with our BC Housing contract. We had a warming center committee appointed, the warming center opened, and at that point we were still looking for a property to operate our commercial kitchen trailer. In February, we received a gaming grant. The 5th Street property that we're currently on became available for a 3-year lease, and we started to letter the neighborhood. In March, we secured our kitchen lease. We hosted an open house at the kitchen. We overhauled our website, signage, and communications based on the public feedback sessions and the surveys we were doing. I had a local podcast interview with Sam Jepson. The board started reviewing policies and procedures for the warming center more in depth. In April, we started to list our kitchen trailer for sale now that we had another home. The kitchen floor plan was done and the reno budget was approved. Contractors began renovations and we participated in a community cleanup event. In May, we hosted our AGM. We had a public info session at the Pearly School where we sat on a panel. We received a huge donation from the Dollar Store with More, worth over $68,000 worth of stock. We had a new board vote to continue the warming center project. In June, we began our Saturday markets. We had a work party loading all of our clothing recycling. Council started to discuss the warming center zoning, and the board began reviewing agreements and proper conduct. In July, the council voted to close the warming center. We joined the local social service advisory group. We spoke with Pivot Legal Society. We hosted a trauma-informed care course, and we presented a delegation to the city to reconsider their bylaw enforcement. Next slide, please. In August, the warming center was closed. Board leadership changed. We joined the Grand Forks Community Action Team, and we hosted Managing Hostile Interactions, a physical safety course. September was quite, I guess, boring. I had nothing for September. I was surprised. October, we met with the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction as part of their Community Integration Initiative. We hosted a Friendsgiving dinner social at the Gospel Chapel. In November, we catered and attended a 2-day board governance workshop at the Legion. We began hosting hot lunches at the Holy Trinity Anglican Church 4 days a week. In December, the kitchen renovations were nearing completion. We participated in the Community Festival of Trees fundraiser, and the church meals continued on into the new year. Next slide, please. The warming center was, of course, our biggest and most different project we had undertaken. One of our most challenging and rewarding projects for sure. The concept started as a 24-hour cafe to complement the motel stay program and quickly changed to include bed night stays when the motel plans fell through. While the opportunity was thrust upon us out of necessity, the overall experience and our work with BC Housing was insightful and inspiring. Most people would think that one of the most rewarding things is being able to provide shelter and stability to people, and definitely it was. It was quite emotional and positive. But another would be to employ 14 people in very competitive wages and provide for them a slew of training. Some of the training in which was not actually available locally, and so we hosted a few, like I'd mentioned, which made the opportunity available to other service providers as well. So very positive and fun to participate in. Next slide. We continued offering bagged lunches. through our thrift store since the summer of 2018. And we finally started cooking again in October. Through the events and the generous offer to use the Anglican Church, we were able to offer more meals to more people in the community. More seniors and families participated in the hot lunches. And the opportunity to gather and socialize creates a more positive dynamic. It allows for better feedback of needs and opportunity for people to network amongst themselves as well. Next slide. Here you'll see some of our meal statistics. I have a green line being the 2017 year. That's what it looks like when Whispers has a stable home, a drop-in center for people. We see regular use of the kitchen. It's so sad to see it completely drop in 2018 when we lost our location and were impacted by the flood as well. And starts to really trickle up a bit with our outreach lunches out of the thrift store, and we start to see it slowly climbing back up. I can't wait until next year's AGM and we can talk about our numbers now. Next slide, please. The renovations were slow but exciting, and a lot of thought and care went into planning the space. We even installed an additional public hand washing station well before the thought of COVID, and I'm going to keep bragging about that one. We wanted the neighborhood and the community to see that we cared, and we wanted to make positive changes wherever we could improve the space. Above all, we want people to feel safe and welcome on our premises. I want to say a special thank you to Rick Hines for his carpentry expertise and hours of work finishing the space. Without his guidance and commitment, it didn't really feel like we were ever going to be done. So, thank you again, Rick. Next slide, please. And the thrift store, thriving on 3rd. A lot of work and a lot of fun, I say, with the thrift store. If it wasn't for the incredible efforts of our staff and our volunteers and the extremely generous nature of our community, our organization would not exist, period. April of 2019 marked our 1-year anniversary in the new space on 3rd Street, and we were busy. While the space was smaller, we made every inch count. Thanks to the enormous donation from the dollar store with more, not only did we get a ton of stock, but several new shelving units, which increased our available space and improved organization. A new fundraising initiative was spearheaded and implemented by our volunteer superstar, Yvonne Copen. Please, round of applause. I'm going to embarrass her. This led to further participation in Christmas markets and has been very fun. We continue it now. Well, not the markets, but the baskets. We also started a new monthly discount day. It was targeted at low-income families, and we offered half off to all items in the store. It's been quite fun, along with our bag sales that we do regularly, or we did regularly then. And last slide here. We highly value inclusion and community participation. We believe that if we work together to increase harm reduction, reduce poverty, and improve community supports, that we can build a healthier community together. Being a member is the first step. So thank you all again so much for being here. All right. Now we are just a few minutes away from 7 o'clock. We will be logging on to a Zoom call with our auditor at 7. So we're probably going to take the time to do a brief recess for people while we kind of work on the technical stuff, getting our sound set up and everything. And this is the real meat and potatoes. The auditor's report is really the big body of work that we were waiting to be done in order to host our meeting tonight. So we're excited that the auditor was available to do this. And I hope we don't put you to sleep through it because it's a little dry, but you know. Thank you all, guys. Oh, I guess, yeah, that's actually a good point. I was actually worried we didn't have time for questions, so maybe I could take some if anyone had anything to do with it. Yes, Mike.
My name is Michael Kilbride, and I wanted to commend and congratulate Whispers on behalf of a group of 15 people. most of whom were residents at the shelter during that very tumultuous time. And I do recall, as the chair mentioned, that rainy day in August, Madam Chair. It was a sad day. But I want to thank Whispers because Whispers has hung in there, and Whispers will now become the part of their story. And what I mean by that is that as Miss Melissa said, we fought like hell to keep that warming center open. We went to Pivot, we went to the BC Civil Liberties Society, and the BC Civil Liberties Society put the city on notice, thank you, for the efforts of the organization. But still the shelter closed. And we kept pushing, regardless of the differences between any of us in this room. We're all in this for the betterment of the community. We all agree to that. Insofar as that we may have different dreams, we all sleep in the same bed of humanity, and we're all in this in support of these victims. And I'm proud to announce that just after that shelter closed, your former chair and I took it upon ourselves to keep this fight going. And we responded to the BC Human Rights Tribunal. And the chairperson of the BC Human Rights Tribunal, Ms. Diana Jesevit, has responded to this in person. And she's duly committed to walking that complaint through its channels. And I don't want it to belabor it a lot, but I cannot thank Lorraine enough. She was in there helping. And Lorraine has paid a cost publicly that I think should not be distributed in public forums where we're all asked to speak civilly. But in the sum of things, you'll find that as of tomorrow, our local boy, Alex Allen, who now works for, Easy Rock in Trail, he's about to commence telling that story, your story, the victim's story, and the story of this community. He's a local boy, he has love for his hood. He's going to tell the story of an unimaginable situation that we all here among us have been a party to and witnessed in real time. And that story is going to be continued to be told around the world. And what we witnessed here last week to do with the fire is but mere confirmation and corroboration of what levels and lengths this community will go to drive out and burn these homeless and marginalized people out of the community. So thank you for being a part of that journey. As we speak, as a result of an effort that your former chair and I launched a couple of weeks ago since that fire, I'm pleased.
You know, Mike, I'm sorry, I really want to interrupt.
Okay.
Our AGM is about 2019.
Okay.
And I do appreciate your passion.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, that is a place where we did split roads, you know? We can definitely relate to that,
But what
you
I
know,
wanna-
feeling of injustice and everything.
All I want to conclude with is we are making great measures. As of last Saturday night, on a private funding basis, there was no homeless people on the streets in the city. And local people, not your government, are coming to the table through an organization and a church locally. And we are all locally funding this. And I didn't really know, but I want to pay some credibility to this motel program that I didn't hear about. Because given what I'm looking at now, I think that would have been a very good economical solution. And it's unfortunate that Whispers didn't get to pursue it. So thank you very much. Keep up the good work. And keep working for those victims. And God bless you.
Thank you so much. And just thank you for your passion and for everything. And I apologize to have cut in. It's just, I'd like to stick to questions about 2019. I do appreciate your efforts so completely. If there are any others, All right, we're at 7 o'clock. We're going to take our brief intermission so that we can get connected with our auditor in about 5, hopefully, maybe 10 minutes. It should be smooth sailing. So feel free to walk around, have a break. I have some water out there in bottles. And thank you all again for your patience. up on the screen for those who are tuning into our live stream.
Okay.
But I don't think that's,
No, it's not
it's
possible.
not necessary.
No.
Yep, they're just gonna have to pay attention and listen real hard and, yeah, love numbers.
I can, like, if I turn my video, can you guys see me? I can't see anything on your end.
You can't see us, but we can see you, so.
Okay, that's okay. So, I'm good to go then?
I think you're good.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you for having me. My name is Ashley Ruggiero. I'm a senior manager in the Trail office with Grant Thornton. And thank you for having us here tonight to present the audit. If there's any questions, you can stop me along the way. I might have trouble hearing you. You might need to pass through Melissa if that works. But if you do have any questions, stop me, or we can answer any questions at the end. So if everyone has the statements in front of them, I'll just get you to flip to page 1. It's just 2 pages in, just after the table of contents. I'll just take you through the auditor's report fairly briefly, just let you know some of the highlights of it. So what we've done is we've audited the financial statements of what's called Benevolence Association, which comprises the statement of financial position as of December 31st, 2019, December 31st, 2018, and January 1st, 2018, as this was a first-year audit. So the statements of operations, changes in net assets, and cash flows are also included. And those other schedules are just at December 31st for 2019 and 2018. So the only one statement has the 3-year columns on it. And the second paragraph in there says, our opinion, except for the effects of the matter described in the basis for qualification, our audit in all material respects the financial position of the society as at December 31st, 2019, and its results of operations and cash flows present fairly. So the basis for qualification is the third paragraph, and this is a very common qualification for not-for-profit organizations that have donations. So basically what the next 2 paragraphs walk through is just that we can only audit what's there, and we can't audit what's not recorded. So it's not saying that there is errors, it's just saying we audited what is there, and what is there, we didn't find any errors. Yeah, like I said, it's a very common qualification for organizations that have donation revenue. The other matter paragraph at the bottom just says that Schedule 1 and 2 are presented for information, more or less, and they're unaudited schedules. They just break down the statement of operations into more detail to provide you with more information. So page 2 is just walk through some of the responsibilities of those charged with governance, management, and us as the auditor. Just very briefly, I won't read the whole page, there's a lot of words there, but management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. And we as the auditors, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue our audit report, which is what we just went through. So there's a lot more responsibilities that are there, but I won't bore you with those details. So on to page 3, with the first page that has some numbers on it. This is called the Statement of Financial Position, better known as the balance sheet, but for not-for-profits, that's the name of the schedule. So you'll see the 2019 column, the 2018 column, and then the January 1st, 2018 column. This is just a requirement of a first-year audit. So I'll just kind of walk through some of the changes that happened from 2019 to 2018. So the middle 2 columns, just to kind of go through some of the ups and downs. So cash is the first item there. Note 3 will provide a little bit more detail, but basically the cash balance of about $20,000 had decreased $25,000 from the previous year, and this was mostly due to the purchase of assets during the year. And there was a slight cash that the society received from operations in the year. The next line is accounts receivable. So the balance of $15,000. This is owing from BC Housing as they're covering the cost of the audit. So you'll see $15,000 there, and also $15,000 of additional accounts payable. So these are items that would be unusual compared to the previous year. The prepaid amount there of $2,700 is prepaid rent. And the last item there is the tangible capital assets, and that is your things that you have that you can physically basically touch and see. So the increase was about 27,000 from the prior year, and that included purchases of 35,000, less amortization of those assets of about 7,600. And those additions were significantly leasehold improvements in the year. So the society has about just shy of 102,000 of assets. And then on the liability side, again, the big jump from the 3,000 in 2018 to the 23 is that 15,000 for the audit. Other than that, it's just trade accounts payable. So the surplus of 77 we'll go through the next couple pages, and then total kind of net assets of the society is 101,000. Kind of in a for-profit organization, you think of this as the kind of profit or the accumulated surplus over the time, so that's a good healthy balance. So if you're following along, I'll actually get you to flip all the way to the second last page, and it just shows better detail of the breakdown of the statement of operations. Let's make sure everyone's there before I move on. So this is the community kitchen and thrift store. It doesn't include the warming center, that's on the next page, so we'll just go through this one first and then we'll flip to the next one. So donations of 180, just shy of 188,000. So that increase of about 102,000. Lots of changes this year. So part of this was due to the in-kind donation from the dollar store. So that was 68,000. There was an increase in thrift store donations themselves of about 21,000, and then 17,000 was received from Boundary Emergency and Transition Housing Society. So the remaining money that they had when they wound up was transferred to the society. So all of those things account for that increase. For grants, the next line is about 59,000, increase of about 18 over the prior year. A significant portion of this increase is due to the Red Cross flood relief of about 14,450. So total revenue 247,000. The expenses, most of them are very comparable. The gift in kind directly offset the dollar store revenue increase. It was an in kind, so we recorded as a revenue and an expense. And then the rent is up about 10,000, and it's just due to moving locations and rental increases. And the last one that's just a little bit higher than expected or than prior year would be the wages and benefits of about 14,000. So then the total is pretty much a break even, a tiny loss of about $164. So on to the next page is Schedule 2. So this is the warming center, and this one's set up a little bit different. So you're looking at the 2019 budget column and the 2019 actual because there was no comparative. So I'll just kind of go through some of the changes compared to budget. So the BC housing funding, it was budgeted at 405, but we did increase that to match the revenue because it was confirmed that BC housing would cover the cost of the audit. So that is increased on both sides. So the education and training, a little bit over budget. Some of that was received, but it was actually transferred back to the other schedule as the training was done for the post-hope staff. So that was an adjustment done. And then the insurance was under budget by about 6,000, and this was just over budgeted, offset by basically rent not being budgeted enough for. And the last one, shelter supplies, was over budget by about 28,000, but this is in line with the underspending on wages after volunteer coordinator position ended. So Whispers used funds to provide better meals and supplies. So the other schedules, so the statement of operations just adds those two schedules together. So I'm back on Schedule 4. So that just shows an overall of how the two schedules come together. There's no items that we didn't go through that wouldn't be on either of those two schedules that don't end up on the statement of operations. So there's also quite a few notes in the back pages, but most of those are, again, they're just required for audit purposes. Lots of good information, but nothing really significant to bring to the attention of, they're just standard notes. I wouldn't draw attention. There's not too much in them that would questions, I can open it up to that.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley. I do have the opportunity to walk around to anyone that may have any specific questions for Ashley. I'm not seeing anything so far. Okay, sorry, Martin, I'll come closer to you so Ashley can hear. Yes.
I was wondering, is there any opportunity in accounting for the inclusion of in-kind donations of services? This would be volunteer hours. Could those possibly be included as in-kind gifts? So that we can have an understanding of our actual costs?
I think I heard your question. Let me just repeat it and let me know if I heard it right. You're asking if there's other contributed services and if the cost of those are included in the statement?
Or can they be?
Or yes, he's wondering if they could be to clearly show the value of those volunteer hours or that donated service time.
They definitely could be. There is a note it's on page 8. It basically says there's volunteers contributed time to assist the society, but these are difficult in valuing, so they're not recognized. But if you had a way of tracking them and that we could audit that, yeah, they could be included for sure.
Excellent. That's a good to-do for me, I think. Better track the hours and for which roles so we could perhaps attribute a value to them for the future.
Yes, for sure.
My question is for Melissa. Is this posted on the webpage?
So she was asking if this has been posted on our webpage, and yes, it has.
Okay.
So on our website, we have a reports page, and on it, I'm pretty sure it's at the very top of the list now for our financial reports. It says the 2019 Auditor's Report and Financials. So anyone, any member of the public can access it at any time.
Super.
Anybody else? No silly questions here. It's all good.
And I move we accept the report as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion to move the report from Tammy, and it looks like it's seconded by Christy. And I think that it's moved, so
Big thank you.
huge thank you to you.
I also want to make.
Yes, thank you everyone, and a big thanks to Christy and Melissa. I know that in a COVID year, your first year audit, this would probably did not go as you expected, but we made it through, and thank you so much for your help and for answering all of our emails and everything, so.
Well, thank you. You made us not so afraid of audits, I think, because that was pretty great.
Oh, that's good.
So thank you.
I think we have one more question up there. I heard somebody.
Anything else? Any questions?
Was there somebody?
I just wanted to say also a huge thank you to Christy, you know.
Of
for
course.
absolutely getting all those numbers in order and.
Honestly, I honestly see you as this like hidden like behemoth for us. You do so much and you provide a lot of guidance, and really we would be lost through all of this these last few years. So thank you so much. All right, Ashley, with that, I believe we'll let you go, and thank you so much for your time and all your work.
Yeah, you bet. You guys have a good meeting, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should say leave or something. Leave the operation.
Close it all. Turn the speaker off. Good now.
Okay, very quickly here, and I'm going to get Melissa to read these out because she has that bigger voice. We have a few little pieces that we wanted to change to our bylaws. And to change your bylaw, we have to present the membership with a proposed change this year. It'll be voted on next year, and if passed, then will go into effect the following year. So this is not just a real, yeah, we're just going to change this. It's like a 2-year process to do that. So I'm going to get Melissa to read what the change is proposed to be, and then we're going to get on with our elections. We're going to have Christopher come and, yes,
Doesn't say that because I've been at other AGMs and other times where you propose it, then the membership votes on that, and then when we file the AGM report, at that time, you're able to make any of the changes or anything that you've done to the society's thing. I have never ever heard that you have to wait another year. Is that new?
I don't know if it's new. I did see that wording in particular in our constitution and bylaws.
Because
At some point.
we have not done that in the past.
We have though.
Yes, we waited 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
So it isn't a society's thing as far as.
It might not be a society's thing, it might have been something that we specifically, so just to reiterate in case you didn't hear, we do have some proposed changes to our bylaws. And is something that may not be typical to other societies, but something that we have done in the past, is they get their first reading 1 year, and then we wait a full year to do the second reading and to do the vote on it. So I know it's something we've done in the past. I feel like I found the wording around it in our constitution, but perhaps it's something that we need to be taking a look at. Because I agree, it's quite waiting years to do things. It's quite frustrating. So one of the proposed changes was to a section number 2 in our constitution and bylaws under membership. We'd like to include that membership would be terminated upon opposition to the Constitution and or non-compliance with the society's bylaws. Really, what this is doing is reiterating a previous section of the membership which says that you must agree with the Constitution and comply with the bylaws. So we are of the feeling that if one cannot do that basic responsibility, that they should have their membership be revoked. So again, we're not voting on that this year. This is something that we will be introducing the following year. So there's a lot of opportunity for feedback on that one. Second one that we would be changing is actually a totally new thing that we'd be including. This is under meetings of the members, part 3, number 15. Nominations for board positions shall be received in writing 4 weeks out from the determined general meeting date and no later than 2 weeks before the determined general meeting date. Nominees will be asked to provide a short public statement directed to the membership as to their interest in the position. So the background of this is that it's very difficult for us to really understand who a lot of these potential board members are, what their interests, what their qualifications are, and it's challenging for us. It's also challenging for the membership to know. So we're hoping this will give an opportunity for people to not only reach out in advance, but for us to get to know them and then members to make an informed vote at the meeting once they have an opportunity to really hear what they're about, maybe even ask some questions and get to know them. So we're feeling like this would be a more positive move for us. Yeah. Any questions about them right now? Okay. Well, thank you so much for that. And I think that's it for the proposed bylaw changes.
I think so. I think we can open up an election now.
Thank you. So we'll be moving on to an election. Now, really, we're just going to be taking nominations for board positions. We've asked Christopher Stevenson to help us be our election officer. Really, we have about 8 positions available out of 9. Val Rolkoff is the only person for sure doing her 2-year term and carrying over. So at this point, we're not sure that there is 8 people to fill all those positions, in which case a vote will not be necessary. Those people will just be acclimated and put onto the board automatically. We will ask Chris to step up and receive the nominations and perhaps maybe read out some of the roles, or do you want to? You don't have to. I think it's so simple, right? Do you want to use?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Yep.
Take off the mask, please.
Take off the mask? I don't want to take the mask off. My wife is watching this and she's going to say you didn't wear your mask. And give me that. Well, thanks for inviting me tonight. I've been asked to serve as elections officer for the election that you guys are doing for your AGM. So it's a pretty simple process. I'm going to declare the elections open and ask for nominations from the floor. As Melissa said, I think basically we need to have 2 people for sure and up to 8. And if there isn't more than 8, then it makes my job a lot easier. If there is more than 8, I'll write the names up on the piece of paper here. If there's more than 8, then we'll do it by a simple show of hands as to how many votes are for each person. And then whoever has the least votes, I guess, gets knocked off. Is that how it works? Unless you refuse to concede, in which case we may have to hang around a little longer. That seems to be the way to do things
Let's
nowadays,
not do
doesn't it?
that.
Could be here for weeks. All right, so I'm going to declare the election, or the nominations open. So what we'll do is if you have a nomination that you want to nominate somebody, just please yell that name out. And then, should I just ask the person if they stand or not at that point? Or do it first and then?
Yeah, we're casual, it's fine.
You're cash?
I think so. They just have to agree to the position. There are 2 people that aren't present that have written and sent in letters to accept a nomination if they're, I'm going to wait and hear from the floor and then I'll make some nominations.
Okay, so I'm going to do it 3 times. I'm going to call for nominations from the floor for positions on the board. Christy? Louise Hack? You accept? You can do more than one, but it has to go around the room once, so you can't stack it with a whole bunch of people. Anyone else? Nominations?
I nominate Teresa Raven.
Teresa Raven.
And do you accept?
Do you accept? Is that T-H or T-E? T-H? Okay, that's 2. Okay, next. Dennis? Cheryl, do you accept? That's C-H-E-R. Okay, so that's 3. Anyone else?
I
Tim?
would nominate Dennis.
Dennis, do you accept? Okay. Ditto marks work. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a nomination for Claudette Parisian. I'll do it first.
Claudette, last name?
Parisian.
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 Like the Pontiac.
There you go.
Right.
I would.
Okay, what is that? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 so far. Anyone else? You can come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes?
Yes, good.
A little reluctant.
Is there a D on the end of that or just an M? It's McClellan, right? No D? No D. Okay, so that's 6. 2 more to go. Anyone else?
Val stays. Yeah. I have a email from Susan Fisher. So I would like to nominate Susan Fisher, and I have a letter of her accepting a role.
So Susan Fisher. Last name is in
Fisher.
Hang on a second. F-I-S-H-E-R.
8, 9 total.
Is that 7? 7, so 1 more. Anyone else?
Tell me you're not coming back? Not this year.
Okay, so
Sunday, not this year.
I'm going to ask a second time for nominations then. It's getting close. It's almost done.
Almost there.
Is that good? Everybody's happy
I
with?
think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll call for a third time for nominations. Okay, hearing none, then I'll call it closed, and you have 7 directors on your board. Nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.
Super easy. Well, now you'll be able to do it for next year when it gets harder. Thank you. All right, I don't know, is there anything else left on our agenda?
Martin, did you want something?
Oh, yes, how about I
Read the fine print.
read the fine print? I'm going to once again read out the names of our new board members, or I guess newly appointed, some of them are returning for sure. We have Louise Heck, Teresa Raven, Cheryl Smith, Dennis Smith, Claudette Parisian, oh my god, I'm going to keep slaughtering her name, I'm sorry, Kim McClellan, and Susan Fisher. So thank you all so much for your volunteerism, for your commitment. It's a very valued position. So,
It is.
And at a later date, amongst themselves, the group will be determining who is fulfilling what roles in terms of president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, those things. So based on their skills and their interests, we will be filling those roles amongst ourselves. So, yeah, and I think that's it. Oh my God, I think this is going to go down in the history books as the quickest and simplest AGM we've ever had. So let's keep it that way, you guys. And thank you again so much for your time. Please do reach out to us if this all kind of sits in and you have a burning question you weren't able to ask. Anyone online, if there's a question that wasn't asked and you're really interested, please reach out to us. We are always open to that. So we have an email address, whispers.hope@hotmail.com. That's the way you can reach the board directly. So, if you don't want to talk to me, if you got a problem with me, you can talk to the board. Otherwise, you could reach out to myself as well, whispers.coordinator@gmail.com. So, thank you all again. Please drive safe, and I look forward to working with you all more. Cheers.